So hello everybody, and welcome to our webinar, Events Made Easy, Automating Your Admin. So we're very excited to be talking about this topic today, and great to have you all joining us from all around the world, as we've just found out. So we're going to start off just by introducing ourselves. You can see here we've got an agenda, so you know what's coming. So I'll start off. I'm Louise, and I'm the Chief Growth Officer for CiviPlus. So I'm looking after all of our potential clients, existing clients, and really just want to understand your needs and help make sure you get the right digital solution for whatever it is that you want to achieve within your organization. And we can don't do that, Alex. And I would also say I have a background working for charities. I was a fundraiser for many years, working across lots of different charities and running lots of different events, and wishing I had a really good CRM to support me. So it'd be really interesting to sort of go through the webinar today, and I will share with you some anecdotes along the way. I'm going to hand over now to Jack.
Yeah, cheers, Louise. So hi, everyone. I'm Jack. I am the sales/account manager at CompuCo. I work really closely with Louise in growth and Alex as well with the marketing side, and primarily help and support all of our new clients from the first point of contact all the way through to their project end, running demonstrations, and being a bit of a pillar to lean on internally here for any of our clients as well. And then over to you, Alex.
Yeah, and I'm Alex. I'm marketing manager. And as you'd expect, I've been involved in quite a few events for marketing, but I also used to work previously at a training company. I was involved in lots of the admin there, and unfortunately, lots of it was very manual. So I really know how important it is to automate as much as possible. So I'll be sharing a bit of my experience today as well.
Great. So I think just before we get started, we just wanted to run a couple of quick polls just to get a feel for everyone who's with us. So if we want to launch those now, just to give a bit of an overview. So the questions are, which database solution do you use currently? Just so we can see if there are Civi users out there, if there are people who are still using spreadsheets. How many events are you running a year? Just to give us a flavor of what kind of volume we're talking about. And what kind of events are people running? Are they online? Are they in person? It's kind of interesting to see in this new post-COVID world, the number of hybrid events that are now taking place, which are really fantastic for so many reasons, but of course also add a layer of organization and administration. So we've got a lot of people who are filling everything in. So I think, is that nearly everybody? Yeah.
Shall we end it? Yes. And if we share the results, we can see, a lot of people in the Civi community here. Normally seems to be the case. And someone's still on spreadsheets. Lots of you running a lot of events. So all running events, this is good. I guess if you weren't running events, you probably wouldn't be coming to a webinar about events. And most of you are running both online and in-person events, which is also interesting to see. So I mean, from my experience, and I know many other people started doing a lot of online events during COVID and have continued since because they ended up, being simpler in some ways. So even though in-person events are also great and have their benefits. But Louise.
I think, sorry. You want me to, sorry.
I think it's over to you for the next section. Yes, as we get started.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Stop sharing. Did I share the results? Yeah.
Great. Okay, so let's start off with, why do we run events? So we'll just take a little step back before we dive in. So obviously there are lots of different reasons and lots of different types of events that you might want to be running. So why? So if we go through all the different reasons, first one being engagement. Most organizations are primarily running these events because they want to engage with their members, engage with their supporters. Other reasons might be income generation, and that might be specifically fundraising for a charity. It might be just general income generation to support your operations. There's lots of different types of income generation. Next, the other reason might be to raise awareness about the work that you're doing, projects you're supporting, campaigns, if there's any kind of campaigning in terms of creating change, raising awareness to the work that you're doing. Next would be community building. So key reason to run events for your supporters, your members, is really to try and build a community for your organization, so you get people fully engaged and fully committed. And finally, we might also run them for knowledge sharing. If you are a professional bodies organization, if you are doing anything that is being an expert in the field you're working, you might want to be sharing the knowledge across your existing supporters or trying to attract new supporters. So let's also talk about the aim of events. So again, the why, the key aim, the key reason of running the events was in the previous slide, but the aim, what is the outcome that you want to get from that event? So it might well be fundraising. It might be you want to be training and learning. You might want to be networking, which is really, all events are networking opportunities, let's be honest, but it might be like the primary aim of your event. Engagement and social events as well, which don't necessarily need to have a serious purpose, but they're absolutely just as important. And finally, conferences. You might be having like a big annual conference, bringing everyone together and getting everything under one roof. So again, these are just examples. There may be many, many more depending on the type of your organization, but we're generalizing here, trying to talk to everyone. So what types of events might you be running? And again, we've just touched upon this, online events. They have been hugely popular since post-COVID, and some people have just transitioned from what were in-person events to just only online events for many reasons. The smallest reason being, it's much cheaper to run an online event than an in-person event. And that people can join you. Geography is no longer an issue. Time zone still might be, but geography becomes, redundant. In-person events, and that could really cover any type of in-person event, from large to small, and everything in between. And then these hybrid events that I just mentioned earlier, hybrid events where you would have an in-person event, but the opportunity for people to join online at the same time, quite complicated, but also very, very helpful and useful for people to really reaching as many people as possible and getting the benefits of still having, that in-person interaction. And then the type of event could be large, medium, or small scale. And the thing is, no matter how big your event is, there are some parts of it that are just all the same. And it doesn't matter if your attendees are 10 or 100, there is the same tasks that need to be done. So we're really going to talk about the things that can be automated that can service you no matter the size of your event. And then finally, there are events that can be like solo events. People could be taking on a solo challenge for you. There could be a group activity type of event, which also requires slightly different management as well. But again, there's so many options available. We can't cover everything today in the short time that we have, but we will try and get through as much as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over now to Alex. He's going to tell us a little bit about why do we want to automate.
Yes, so we thought, we've said automation is good already, lots of good things, but, let's, before we get into how you can automate, let's really make the case for automation and make it very clear all of the reasons, because you've probably got some thoughts in your head already, but let's place them down. I mean, the obvious one is it saves time, and it's not just saving time for us, it's saving time for the people attending the events as well. They need to spend less time doing things. We need to spend less time doing all the complicated paperwork that none of us enjoy. So that's a massive one, which in turn also saves money. So clearly, if you think in terms of people's time, you're paying them to do, we're paying our team members in order to do all this paperwork. And if they're not doing all this paperwork because we've automated it, well, that money that we were spending on that can be used elsewhere. And, there are also other efficiencies you can make just by cutting really manual stuff out along the way. Less chance of mistakes. This is an enormous one. I can't tell you the amount of times that, a name or something would go astray. Back when I was doing the work with the training company, it's very easy to mistype a name, make a typo. And these are the sorts of things that you don't want to do because they can be hugely impactful. And names are one thing, but if you start making mistakes with payment details, it gets even worse and a lot more serious. So the more we can basically eliminate from us doing it, the better, because machines are more accurate than we are because we are much more fallible. You also get a total overview in general if you automate. So automation systems are normally set up so lots of things all come into one place and they go out, and rather than it all being in lots of different places, and I'm sure we've all had that situation running things in the past where it's all in the millions of spreadsheets, and we'll probably be saying this a few times today, but that becomes an absolute nightmare. And if someone wants to, someone's ill and someone else has to kind of take over the event running for the day, the pre-event management, it just becomes a nightmare to look after it. Data is also stored for future reporting. If you automate, it comes in, comes out, it's all in one place. You can run a report really easily. You can see who's signed up, you can see who's attended, you can see who's, all of these things. And that's a super useful thing for future insights as well, when you're looking back in it, rather than, again, trying to hunt for whatever spreadsheet you've buried in some obscure folder. And yeah, as I've already said, it is a better overall experience for you if you automate, but it's and that's a really important thing. It's better for the attendees, of course, but it is for you. And at the end of the day, we do want to make it better for our attendees, but from a selfish perspective, if we make our work more fun, we make it more enjoyable for ourselves, then that will come across to the people that we are helping, or that we're attending our events, because we'll enjoy our job, and that will come across. If we're not enjoying our job because it's kind of got all this boring work, then it's going to be, we're not going to be as enthusiastic on the day, perhaps, or we'll have to really push it. It's a great thing to be able to really just make it so much simpler for ourselves. And so with all that being said, and I'm sure you can come up with more reasons for why we want to automate. We'll get into some different sections here of how it can affect the event lifecycle. And I'm going to be taking here all about what we can do before the event. And as you'd expect, this is the meatiest part, because before the event, there's a lot of organizing to do, lots of different things that you can get up to. And, we won't be covering every single part of event management today, because clearly you can't automate every single part of it. For instance, we can't just book accommodation automatically for you. You're going to have to go, a venue for you automatically. If you want to go and find a venue, you're going to have to talk to someone or find something online. So there are parts of event management which won't be covered here, but we'll be looking at what we can automate and get rid of. And so the first thing that you'll be thinking of is, well, who's actually attending the event? Probably the most important thing. You can have the best event in the world, but if no one turns up, well, you've not really had an event. And so that's the first thing. We need to think about who we're inviting and how do we get them to the event. And so a really important thing that we talk about very often here is all about segmenting your audience and really thinking, how can I make the event the most attractive to my audience, and think about which of my supporters, which of my donors, which of my members might best want to attend this. And so, for example, we could pick everyone who lives in London, for instance, if we're running a London-based event. We could pick, if it's an appropriate, say, age-appropriate thing. So maybe if it's for people who are retired, if we're doing a coffee morning or something like that, where they might not have a job, because they're retired. So that might be more appropriate for them. You don't send it to people with full-time jobs. They're less likely to attend a coffee morning because they'll be busy. And also, if you've got specific members, membership tiers, then you can also send it out to them. Maybe your gold members are more specifically interested in something. Maybe your bronze members are more interested in something, and you can think of it in this type of way as well. And just as a quick statistic, if 50% more people are 50% more likely to click on emails that are actually segmented and really targeted towards their interests. So if you're already thinking, I'm not going to send it out blanket to my whole database, I'm going to really focus the message in, then you're already setting yourself up for better success. And the important question here is, where automation comes in, well, how can we actually segment our audience? And what we could do, and if you go really far back, then we could literally just go for the database, add names manually. I'm sure we've all done this. It's fine when you've got a really limited list of people, maybe like a really limited list of major donors, but it's just not good, and it's impossible if you get to a really large scale. You don't want to be doing it manually. It's so time consuming. And instead, what most people seem to do, and a very standard way of doing it, is instead looking at static lists, which are based on filtering, i.e. you might have a spreadsheet or some email system where you can say, you can filter for everyone who lives in London or everyone who is, of a certain age group, and you can then export them, upload them, and That way you'll be able to email this group. However, it doesn't automatically update. And every so often you're going to have to re-upload it or cross-reference it or whatever with it. And it's not very efficient long-term because you're still having to intervene every so often to, you know, if you get a large sign up between events, you're going to have to make sure you do it and really keep on top of that. Whereas the best way to do it is if you can completely automate it. And this is something that you might hear referred to as smart lists, certainly within the Civi system. Smart lists, smart groups are what they're called. You might hear it referred to as dynamic groups. Essentially, these are ways that based on certain criteria, the list keeps itself up to date. So if we're talking about the London example, for instance, it will automatically pull anyone from London and put them in the group for you. Or if you change someone's address to London, or you add a new contact with London, then it will get added to the group. You don't need to intervene. It does it for you. It makes it so much easier to keep on top of who you're emailing. But what about the actual emails themselves? How do we actually get in touch with these people now that we've selected them a bit? Email is, as you know, one of the most effective ways personally that I've found to get people to events. Lots of different methods you can use, but email seems to consistently be the best one for me. And traditionally, as I said, you do have to upload the list to the email platform that you've got or cross-reference the existing list. It's time consuming. There's potential for errors. You know, maybe the data doesn't match up. Maybe it's got a bit old. And so these things can all have issues. It's not fun and it's prone to mistakes. So it's easier, really, what we would say is if you put it all in one database, you put it all in Civi or all in your CRM, it just makes it so much easier if it's just in one place. And that way you're not having to make sure that it's matching up. It's automatically just going to send it through and you don't have to think about it as much. And a key thing that I'd like to highlight here is that a really important thing that you can get in Civi and some other systems is exclude lists. We all think about who we're mailing in terms of who we're going to include in our email, but sometimes you might want to exclude people. So maybe you want to send it out to, say, everyone who's not in London. So you include all of your members or all of your donors, but you exclude the people in London. Or maybe, as a very common one of events, you want to send it out to everyone who's registered, but not the attendees, i.e. everyone who didn't actually show up. So you can include and exclude, and that way you can really, really narrow down your audience without having to create loads and loads and loads of extra lists. It's a much smarter way to do it. And we're not going to get too into email today, but just a quick plug for our previous webinar. If you check our YouTube channel, we did a lot more in emails there if you're more interested in how to get the emails to actually attract people towards your events. In terms of online registration, it's just such a massive part of how you can make the process so much smoother in the sign up. Because we just want to make it simple for both parties. I can tell you from my experience, we used to have to be ringing people up at this training company. We used to have to be doing all sorts of things with loads and loads of spreadsheets. It was endless work, lots and lots of admin. It was relatively simple, though not the best for the person at the other end. But for us, we had to maintain multiple spreadsheets across multiple events. You know, they would break from time to time because we were trying to do complicated things with them. We had to update it each time we did an activity, each time someone paid. And just not very effective if you don't have it all coming in directly into your database. Because if you have it directly into your database, you don't need to maintain these multiple spreadsheets for different events. And, you know, if you're doing, say, like a gala dinner or something, then you might have to, if you're going to have table hosts, you probably have different spreadsheets or different tabs for each single table host, and you have to make sure each person isn't on the same tabs, and it gets exceedingly complicated if you're doing things like that. And so what you can do with these online registration forms, you can gather the basics, of course, you know, name, etc., but you can also gather more bespoke details. So things that you might like dietary requirements. You're providing food, it's super important to get that. You can have any accessibility requirements. You can maybe ask about accommodation if that's appropriate to your sort of event. And you can gather all of that and it goes through straight into your database, and you don't need to bother with any of the emails and the phone calls to find out all this stuff later. But you can also do other things like session sign up. And this is a fantastic one. You can get people to kind of indicate if you're doing a big conference when you have multiple sessions running at once, they can say, oh, I'm interested in this session or I'm interested in that session, which can help you allocate different rooms. Maybe we're running 2 sessions, but we don't know which one's more popular. But if we put that on the form and make it super simple for ourselves. We can say, oh, well, this one, like 75% of people want to attend this, so we'll put it in the big hall and we'll put the small room, the other session. And you've already made life much easier than just guessing or, you know, having to manually ring round everyone or send an email at the end of all of it. And another thing that you can do with an online registration form, certainly we made something for Civi that you can do this with, but you can also gate it for members or perhaps your major donors or just a certain group of people, so that only they can sign up for the event. Because we know sometimes you want to make an event, you want to have an online registration form, but you want to keep it an exclusive event just to a specific group of people. And this is something that gets super easy here. And so that's, you know, not something that you need to lose just because you're getting rid of the manual side of it. But of course, the other side of the online registration, and probably the bigger part, is the payment system. And anyone who has dealt with any paid events know that this is the absolute worst headache, chasing people up for payments and keeping on top of it all, making sure, you know, especially if you're dealing with groups of people, it gets very chaotic very quickly. Yeah, time consuming is an understatement. CRMs can let you collect payment at sign up, and it lets you collect it on an easy form, online form. Of course, you can do it over the phone, and, you know, I'm sure some of you might have done it over the phone in the past. However, nowadays, people are a bit wary of giving out stuff like that on the phone for obvious reasons. So if you can offer it automatically and then it just gets attached to the contact, you don't have to take down their details, put it into a spreadsheet, then, you know, do a load of complicated payment stuff with it yourself. All the payment stuff gets processed, gets attached to contact. You don't have to get involved. Lots of time saved. And it's just much easier this way to implement more sophisticated fees. So rather than just having one flat fee or maybe, you know, a few things, you can make tiered tickets super easy for yourself. They're just on the form and it just carries it all out for you. But more than that, you can do things like discounts and early bird offers. And I don't know if anyone's experimented with any of that. I mean, if you have and you found anything, it might be interesting to put that in the chat. But you can have these set discounts, you can have these early bird offers, and the system will handle it all for you, rather than you having to put it in the communications and making sure people have seen it, and just it's there on the form. And of course, if you want any add-ons, maybe there's a specific thing that you can put onto your event, which people can pay for as well, which these are the sort of things that are really valuable that you can just put on the form straight away. And yeah, just to kind of give you a quick demo of what one of these forms could look like, to give you an idea. As you can see, we've kind of got a demo form for a VIP dinner here, where you could sign up for multiple people. We've got a person here, you can sign up for which table or ticket you want, put payment details in. And here, yeah, we're registering the second participant. This is all super simple, put their details in. You can also register them for their individual ticket options. And of course, you can add, as I said, all the dietary requirements, etc., to this as you want. You can even skip a participant on this form here. And this is all done within Civi. And yeah, continue. And once you've submitted all of this, you fill in that form, super simple. And in a second, yeah, I go over to here to the event management system, where, as you can see, if I refresh it, VIP dinner, second down there, we've gone up to 4. The extra 2 people have just been registered. They're already there, and you can see them on the list there. And that's it. Rather than all of the spreadsheet nonsense that some of us have dealt with a lot in the past, it's all there. And you can send out communications to them super simply. Oops, wrong one. But you know, the next part of it, though, after all of that, is, of course, the response tracking. We've got all of the communications out, we've got all of these, but there's also, if we're sending out invites, we need to know who's actually responding to the emails. And it's quite, and you know, how all of the processes are ongoing. And it's really easy to track a small event. If you've got a really small event, it's much easier. If you've got a large event, it becomes a lot of work, especially if you're trying to run multiple at once. So yeah, CRM just makes that so much easier. You saw the kind of system that you can have there. You've got a large list. You can see people who've paid. You can see they've registered, the fee levels they've got. You can look at all of this. You can see also if registrations are done on behalf of someone else, if they're table hosts, you know, who their recruiter might be. You can see all these sorts of relationships within a system like this. You can also see maybe if you've sent an email out, who's not responded, or who's not responded to certain requests that you've made. Maybe if you need some additional stuff from them or that kind of thing. You can also do all sorts of things like automated wait lists. So maybe you have a limited number because you've got an in-person event, you have only maybe 20 places or 50 places at your event, but you want to let people keep signing up. And if you have the automated wait list, people can automatically just put themselves on the wait list, and the system will say, oh, someone's dropped out, you can be put in, rather than having to do it manually and contact the person. The system will do it for you. And of course, you can do all of this with pre-made reports, which will make it super easy to see this is the list of people who've signed up. So to give you some kind of idea of how much simpler the process might be when you're kind of thinking of response tracking and the kind of process that we're going on here, this might be what a manual process looks like. So to give you a kind of clue here, the blue is the manual steps. The yellow is the yellow kind of square stuff is the automated stuff. And really the only automated thing, if you're doing it purely with spreadsheets, is that you receive the payment in an automated way, which is better than nothing, I guess. But lots of this is going to be completely manual, and maybe your process is even more complicated than this. This is just an example one. How if you do it in an automated way, we've simplified this. You only need one manual input. You just need to send out the invite, and then you do all sorts of things. All sorts of things your system does for you, form logs, it does automated confirmation emails for you, all of this. You haven't had to do anything apart from send out the initial invites. And you can dedicate more time if you want to chasing up individual people, because you're not spending all the time doing all this really tedious admin, and you don't even need to create the report at the end because it's automatically in your system. So it makes such a big difference just automating in terms of the amount of time, and that's what we'd like to stress here. And as a final point before the event, and I'll be handing over to Louise after this, on the pre-event comms side, because there's lots of communications that you want to be sending out. It's not just the initial booking. You can, of course, get the automated booking confirmation email, so it'll just automatically ping it out to someone, because most people would expect that nowadays. If you book for an event and you don't get an automated confirmation email, you wonder if it actually works or not. So that's a major part that you want to make sure you do it. But you can also have automated reminders. And so many of you said you were in Civi. I don't know if you use the schedule reminders right now in the Civi system, but that's a fantastic system that lets you just schedule it in advance. I want to send out something a day before, an hour before, remind people. I can shove in all sorts of tokens merge tags, by which I mean, I could just say hi and put someone's name. Remember the event is at this time, and you can use, it just makes your life so much simpler than having to remember at the time a day before when you might be busy, because we all live busy lives, to do it yourself. Then you can also do, you can share video links, perhaps, for your Zoom or whatever in advance or on the day. And maybe you have advanced materials to share. If you're doing training, especially, you might want to share some sort of stuff or some kind of group activity that you want people to prepare beforehand. This is the sort of thing that you can send out in these automated emails. But you can also do other things with this. You can create automated notifications for yourself. So maybe there are certain comms tasks that you have to do manually because, there are some specific tailored things that you might have to do. Maybe you have to deal with someone's parking in advance. I know that was one that sometimes ended up being an issue for some of our venues. And so you can set yourself that kind of task in the system, log it for yourself, and that way you're not going to forget it. It's going to pop up for you, send you an email automatically. So it's not just for your attendees. This is also for yourself to remind you of what you're going to do. And another example I've got here is that if you've got volunteers for an event, you might want to remind yourself to ring them if you've got to set up something with them, because that's the sort of thing that, if you've got specific things to talk over with them that you're going to want to do, but you might forget about with the amount of other things going on. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to Louise, who is going to talk us through how to deal with during the event and what we can actually do there.
Thank you very much, Alex. Oh yeah, that last one, just that you've just talked about, the volunteer one. I think that's such a good one. Somebody registers as a volunteer and then it automatically creates me a task to remember to call them. It's the kind of things like that just make your life so much easier if you're running a very multifaceted event. So yeah, that's a great little tip to set up automated tasks when certain things happen. So I'm going to talk about what you can do on the day to again try and make things a little bit more automated. So the first thing is printing name badges direct from the event list. There are still name badge events, as much as they may seem slightly more old-fashioned. They are essential in certain events for networking purposes. I'm a big supporter of the name badge, and I think having a really simple, easy way to print them out from your directly from your attendee list in your system really just makes life a lot easier. Recording attendance. Now, this is something that I think is often done by paper and pen on the day, and then it can be updated later. But I would say if you're able to bring a laptop to your event and be connected to Wi-Fi, then you can record it as people are arriving. You can update them straight away, and then it's all going to be ready for you for all your follow-up after the event. And I would also say, even if you feel like that won't work for, getting people in quickly, you could take that paper attendance list on the day and still have somebody with a laptop updating the records while the event is going on. If you have a volunteer or manpower to spare, I would recommend doing that, again, because then you've got all of that data ready to go for your follow-up straight away. And then, just to touch upon recording pledges. If you are running any kind of fundraising event, you might be asking for, doing an appeal or an auction and asking for pledges on the day. And again, I would say if you are able to bring with your laptop and be connected to the internet, you can, immediately upload those into your system, the donations and any auction pledges. And then again, you're going to have all of that information ready to go for your event follow-up. And then the last tip, which is really a key one, is updating and logging any interactions with any participants at the event. So, of course, there are going to be conversations, especially if you're looking to engage with people and somebody says, oh, do you know what, actually, I might be interested in volunteering for you, or, oh, I might be, interested in coming to the next event, or whatever it may be, or it might be a major donor you're trying to cultivate, and they tell you they've got 2 kids. You'll want to remember that. So if you are able to, on the day, find your way to update that information directly into the system, or store it in your brain and update it the next day. But it's just the more you can do on the day as it's happening, the better effective it will be, and the better your future engagement and follow-ups can be. So that's on the day. Now, after your event, that's where all of that information then comes into play. So the first thing we want to talk about is follow-ups. So you, of course, want to say thank you after someone comes to your event. And you can schedule your automated follow-up. So just as you scheduled all the automated reminders to go out in advance, you can have written this prior to the event, scheduled it to go out 24 hours after the event. And you can actually create different emails based on the different status or type of participant. So it might be the type of participant, they're an attendee, but they might be also a speaker. So then instead you would say, thank you for speaking, you spoke so well. You can pre-write that and assume they did speak so well. So if you have volunteers, thank you for volunteering. And then when it says, sorry, you can't make it, well, that's about the status. So when you've uploaded all the people who actually attended, you can send out an email to the group of people that did register but didn't actually attend on the day, and they will get a bespoke email too. And as Alex said, the more you segment, the more you can target your communications to the right people, the better response and engagement you will get. So you can set all of this up in advance. You can also tweak the information if needs be, but what you can do is have tokens or merge fields added in to add the relevant information as needed. So for example, for an automatic pledge follow-up email, you can have that, thank you for attending, thank you for your pledge of XXX, add token. And then if you've uploaded that pledge the day before, then it will automatically pull the correct amount, and then it will automatically send out the right amount to that person. And that is hugely important. The quicker you can send out a request for a donation or a pledge that someone's made, the better chances you have of actually getting that actually to come in. Because as we all know, pledges are great, but they're only pledges until they pay. So, so there's two options here we've given examples for. So as I said, sending out a payment link with the amount automatically added in if they'd entered a pledge and you'd uploaded it to the system. And then you can segment people who did make pledges and people who didn't. And then you can send a very nice thank you email. Thank you for attending. You may not have had a chance to think about a donation. We'd love for you to consider one. And you can send a separate kind of appeal email with a donation link if they didn't pledge on the day. So all of this can be set up in advance. And as long as you've updated the criteria, the bit that you do have to do manually, you do have to say whether someone attended or not. Once that's done, the automation can really take over and really streamline, especially if you're following up after pledges and you want to tell each person exactly what they pledged, because they're definitely not going to remember. And, you know, you don't want to end up with less than you were expecting. And then, of course, you can also set it up to send information about any future events that are coming up, and also extra information about your organization, whatever might be relevant. And you can also automatically generate certificates. If you're doing some kind of training course or there's been some kind of experience that everyone's done together, you can set auto-generate certificates up through Civi, and then that can also be sent out to everyone whose status is the right status for that. So this follow-up after an event is always one of the hardest, most time-consuming things to do, and to get things exactly right and accurate. And by using a system like this, it can really minimize your workload, but also really maximize the results, because people feel like they've been personally engaged with and you followed up personally about any kind of donation. So another great thing that you can do after an event is gather feedback. And you can also set up an automated email to go out. Now, maybe not the day after the event. It could be you might do it 2 days after the event, or maybe it's triggered after they make a donation, whatever it may be. But the best thing to do is to get that feedback and have it stored in your system. So the feedback, yeah, there we go. Next slide. Yeah, next bit. The feedback is incredibly important for improving. It's really good to just ask your supporters how they felt about things and what they would like to see going forward. You can basically automate a follow-up survey to your audience, which will automatically log responses into the system for you, which would make it really easy to, I think I'm talking faster than the slides, which will make it really easy to analyze and have everything all in one place, so you can gather all of that data instead of people sending it to you in different emails or having different phone calls. Put it all in a form, and then you can really collate that information and really analyze the results. And you can even combine that with segmentation, so sending different forms to different types of participants and different types of people. And the most important thing is asking, you know, what do they want in the future? What is going to make things better going forward? Okay. The next slide is about additional benefits. Okay, so the additional benefits of reporting. So the more that you've put into one centralized CRM system, the more overview reporting you can do. So it's you know, some people may be using a combination of systems, spreadsheets plus other external systems to manage their events or manage their emails, but you have everything all in one place. So you've got a really a good opportunity to be able to have a strategic overview of reporting. Next tab, please. Thank you. The overview of reporting. So booked versus attended. So that's an interesting one always, as we mentioned just before. You know, people who say that they're coming in and they don't, you might want to treat them differently. And you might want to see, is there a pattern? Do you have a normal percentage of people turning up? What's the dropout rate? You know, what different types of events have different types of results? Donations versus pledges, of course. How many people pledged at your event? How many of those pledges actually turned into donations? You know, you want to make sure you haven't got serial pledges, we used to call them. Serial pledges, love making a pledge, never make a payment. But it's important to see, yeah, I made Jack laugh there. It's important see, really what is going on and what is being successful, what types of appeals are working. Attendance across a series event. Maybe you want to see who your best, most engaged supporters are. You can see people who've come to multiple events and how they've interacted with you, which can be hugely valuable in terms of engaging with your best ambassadors, really. And then individual breakdown reporting is the next thing, where you can basically dig down into a contact's attendance record. And specifically, if you want to engage with someone, you would look at their contact record and you can see what events they've been to. So when you're making a phone call or you're meeting them in person, you can reference that and you can know, or maybe you weren't sure if they were at the last event, you couldn't remember, you can go and check and see before you speak to them. You can then cross-check that with, have they made any donations? Have they signed up to any memberships recently? Have they read any of your email communications? Did they fill in the survey? You don't have to tell them all of this, but you can have all of that information at your fingertips to help guide your conversation and strengthen your interaction with that contact. And then, so everything else to do with attendance fees, feedback forms, everything is all linked there together. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to just talk a little bit about additional automations. So I am now going to hand over to Jack, who's going to tell you a little bit about event templates and then do a demo, which is going to really showcase and highlight everything that Alex and I have been talking about up until now. Over to you, Jack.
Brilliant. Cheers, Louise. So Alex and Louise have covered a lot of points, particularly around event automation, which can actually be solved by getting your templates right in the first instance. So event templates are perfect for regular events that you run. So events that maybe run on a weekly basis and you just want to update the time and date for the event, and all the rest of it will be populated. Annual events that you might run, so if you do any kind of conferences that are located at the same place, potentially, but on a different date. The main benefits of it is you set up the template correctly once, and then the next time that you go to use this template, all of the figures and files that you can see along the right, so template title and event type, for example, are already pre-populated. So you can just set up an event with a few clicks. They're also great for repeat events. So if you do any kind of workshops or speaker series, for example, or maybe you run training courses, templates are great for that. So I will show you on the next slide a full video of how, and I'll answer Helen's question, which she put in the chat a moment ago, about scheduled reminders. So if you can just pause, Alex, while I can make my screen big so I can see it properly. 2 seconds. Brilliant, thank you. So within Civi, like I mentioned, you can create really comprehensive templates, and it can take you through this step-by-step process here. So you can assign a template, a title. This is for your reporting purposes. You can decide on an event type. So you can drop between these conference, exhibition, and fundraisers, but you can customize these. You can decide a role. You can also decide participant listing. So that's what you see on the event. You can, of course, give it a title and a summary, and you can add some full context of information if you wish to as well. Then you can decide the max number of participants that are allowed to register for a particular event. And if you wish to do some additional automation with a wait list, you can do. And people that sign up for the wait list will receive an automated email to say that there's a space become available and they can sign up for the event. Along the bottom, if we just scroll down, we can see additional event details. So this won't be covered in today's webinar, but we do have a self-service portal members area included in CiviPlus, which we'll briefly mention later. And if you wanted to showcase the event there, you just click this button and it will put there as well. Then we go to step 2 of the event. So this is where you put the location. And I really want to mention here that all this will be populated already if you set up the templates correctly. And you can actually use templates for locations as well. So all of these fields will be populated for you, so you don't have to do it the next time you want to run the event. Step 3 is the fees for the event. So whether you do paid or free events, you can run both through Civi and CiviPlus. So if it's a paid event, you can decide your currency, you can decide how you want to take the payment as well. So with CiviPlus, we use Stripe because of the low fees and the great UX. You can enable pay later options as well if you wish to do that. This is a bit more manual, as you do actually have to chase people for these payments, but people do like to do that for sort of older fundraising and events as well. Here is where you'll put the fee labels. So this is relating to a point that was mentioned earlier. You can put these fees, or you can get a bit more sophisticated with the events and tickets as well. You can do discount and early bird sign up as well along the bottom. So you can do as many discounts as you like. This just encourages people to sign up for the event a bit earlier, so you can get all those spaces filled up. Then if we go to the next tab, we have, this is the clever bit of Civi where you can actually create all your online registration forms. So here is where you would decide the duplication rules, whether you want there to be an online registration or manual of people phoning up perhaps. You can create the registration screen, and you can also utilize this concept called profiles, which we'll just go down to in a moment. And you can pre-save all these profiles, and a profile is a collection of fields that you want to capture on someone's particular registration. So you can see here that we've got some preset ones that we've created, and I can preview that. So first name, last name, but you can add as many fields to these forms as you wish. So like Alex mentioned earlier, accessibility, dietary requirements, for example. Then you can create the confirmation screen. So this will just take the person signing up through to the confirmation screen, and of course the thank you for registering screen. And then there's some great automation along the bottom here where you can actually auto send them a confirmation email, and you can decide who the recipient will see that's from. So you can put any email address you like here as well. And if you wish to BCC yourself or CC yourself, you can do, just so you know that they've got it. And then to answer your question, Helen, here is where you create scheduled reminders for an event. So you can create as many scheduled reminders as you wish to. So we've got 2 here for the gala dinner, and I'll show you how you can edit and add a reminder here. So Louise mentioned that you can give it a title earlier, and you can also decide which recipients receive it. So for example, people that didn't attend, people that are registered, or a speaker. You can decide the time in which the scheduled reminder goes out, and if you wish to record an activity for that. You can of course decide the email that it goes from. And again, just pushing the importance of templates, you can store templates here, which will automatically populate that and use these tokens, which Louise mentioned. So it will personalize each mail piece that goes out to every individual. And you can set as many of these as you wish. And this is just to show, not a lot of people use this, but if you do run repeat events for, like I said earlier, annual events, or maybe weekly training courses, perhaps, you can set up repeat events. And that's just another bit of great automation, so you don't have to keep setting the events every single week. You can decide the criteria when you set it up, and the system will notice that and allow people to sign up as and when. And then back over to you, Louise, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Jack. That was a great tour through there, and really nice to see all the different things that Alex and I have spoken about. It's always good to see it visually. So we're just going to move on to a few top tips now. So in just basically summarizing everything that we've really just spoken about. So the first thing is, of course, online registration and online payment being key to making your lives easier and making things more efficient and easy for your supporters too. Just make things clear and simple for them to sign up and attend. Capturing and recording specific information. So not only name and email address, but also, additional information like dietary requirements, as we've said, whatever else it may be. I'm sure you've all got personal events criteria and the specific information as well. Again, just so you don't have to keep lots of different lists in lots of different places. Automating your follow-ups, which is, as we've seen, can be very lots of different types of follow-ups, lots of different types of people, attendees, donors, speakers, volunteers. So you can get that all lined up long before your event, and then all can be scheduled to go out. So you don't need to worry about it. Next, tracking the replies. Of course, tracking as those responses are coming in. You can just easily, with a few clicks, see exactly how many people have signed up. And actually, that's the best bit, actually, logging in. Even within Civi, you can set up a dashlet. On your homepage, you have a dashboard area. You can set that up, and you can see as you log in exactly how many people have registered, and check all the reporting as you go along. Automating the email comms in advance as well. So not only reminders for, coming to the event, where they should park, whatever it may be. Also the emails that go out in the beginning, the invitations in the very first place, about creating those groups with dynamic mailing groups, dynamic segments, so you don't need to spend loads and loads of time putting those lists together in the first place. And then finally, the clear and insightful reporting, which I think is really key for really trying to determine the success of your event, whatever that may be, whatever success looks like to you, and then looking at how you can do things going forward. And there's always going to be room for improvements, and having that clear data and clear overview of reporting is really going to help you with those decisions. So the final thoughts is that, to be honest, not everything can be automated. Unfortunately, there are some things that you will still need to do manually, but the key is to try to minimize your manual input. Try to see, where that's the way you've always done things. Is there a quicker, more efficient way you can do it with automation? Because really, at the end of the day, what you want to really do is maximize your organization, your time, your organization's money, the accuracy of your event, and your energy. It takes a lot of energy to run events and to manage them. They can be stressful. There can be lots of different factors that are happening. And so the more you can minimize your manual input in these particular areas, the more you'll have to give to the event as a whole. And as Alex said, the more you are feeling on top of things and enjoying things and not stressed, the better it will be for everyone. So before we go, now I just want to talk to you a little bit about CiviPlus, which we've mentioned as we've been going along. So introducing CiviPlus. So CiviPlus is secure and it's accessible to everyone. It basically brings together all the very best features of Civi CRM, which, as most of you will probably know, is the #1 open source nonprofit CRM. But CiviPlus has basically been brought together by 10 years of knowledge to give you the very best possible Civi CRM experience. So what we've done is create a powerful, easy to use, cost effective, all-in-one, ready to use platform. It would be hosted and managed and maintained by us, and it's ready to go out of the box, ready for you to use. And I'm just going to show you, give you a little overview of what CiviPlus can do, what those out-the-box features are. So first of all, we are managing our contacts. As you know, Civi is beautifully designed to manage different types of relationships, and understand that in a non-profit organization, people can have multiple different types of relationships and be connected in hundreds of different ways that we all want to track. Taking payments online, as we've mentioned before, you're using Stripe as our payment processor, tracking fundraising opportunities, major donor pipelines, and whatever else, trusts and foundations applications, all fundraising opportunities can be tracked. Managing memberships as well. All different types of membership can be managed through CiviPlus, complex ones, multi-tiered. It's got a hugely powerful membership management area. Events, of course, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this webinar. And of course, not only events, CPD training, conferences, any type of event that needs to be managed. It's got an amazing drag and drop email builder built into the system. So you can not only send out lovely emails, but you can create and design beautiful ones within the system as well. There's a case management functionality if you are managing casework through your organization. Task dashboards, which are my personal favorite, assigning tasks to myself and then going through them and checking them off. And then the best, assigning tasks to other people and their tasks popping up on their task dashboard for them to do. Reporting and analytics we've touched upon already, but obviously comprehensive reporting. There's over 100 report templates that come with CiviPlus, but you can also build and design your own templates as well. Surveys and petitions we've talked about, designing your own survey forms, sending them out, getting the results back in, and all of that being stored under one roof. Managing volunteers, if that's relevant for your kind of organization. Tracking applications. Now, applications could be for anything. It could be to be a volunteer. They could be applying to be a volunteer. They could be applying for a grant, which leads us on to the next point of grant management. Of course, there's a comprehensive grant management area built in, which can be very important for organizations giving out grants. There's accounting integration, which is, of course, essential. And there's a self-service portal, which we mentioned earlier, which is a members only area. It could be used for committee members or volunteers, but it's a portal they can log into, update their own details if they have a change of address or a change of email. They can download invoices for events or for any kind of donation they may be making. They can see news and event opportunities, lots of different things for them to have a personal interaction with your organization with. So that's a really exciting extra feature of CiviPlus. So just giving you that first look here of a contact record. So we had a little tour of the events area from Jack earlier, and we saw the online registration form from Alex. This is a first look at a contact record. So we can see here Mr. Tony Stark, who's a very good friend of ours. We're very lucky. So we have a flash overview on the front page of all the key information relating to him. And then you'll see the tabs down the left-hand side, contributions, memberships, events, etc. will basically allow you to jump in and see every single part of the system that Tony has interacted with and have that full 360-degree view of every single contact in your system. So yeah, I think the next thing is about the next webinar. So maybe not relevant for everyone, but maybe one person on this call, I think, why spreadsheets are holding you back. The future is CRM. So this is more directed at people who haven't yet made that leap into their first CRM to really understand, you know, all the benefits that they can gain from that. And a system like CiviPlus can really, you know, revolutionize the way you're working and your organization and help drive things forward and support the growth of your organization. So please, if it's not relevant for you, please do feel free to share this with any other sister or partner organizations or friends or family that maybe need to just come and hear a bit more and not be you know, so daunted by the prospect of making that leap from spreadsheets to CRMs. So with that, I think, you know, the last thing to leave you with is that, you know, we'd love to talk to you. You know, every organization is different, everyone's needs are different. And Jack and I would love to speak to you and talk to you a little bit more about your needs and perhaps even do a personalized demo of CiviPlus to see if that could be a good solution for you and your organization. So we will be sending out a video recording of this webinar tomorrow, and there will be a link in there to speak to us, and we'd absolutely love to have a conversation at any time that suits you. And so I think that is it. We have finished bang on time. And if there are any questions, we're happy to stick around for a little bit and just have a chat, really. Any thoughts, comments, but otherwise I'll say thank you very much for joining, and I'll open the floor. Oh, thank you in the chat there.
John.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate. And Alison. That's great. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed it too. Yeah. Well, I have anyway. But yeah, it's always lovely to be able to share knowledge and to, you know, hopefully give a few bits of inspiration to people, even experienced Civi users. There's always something new to learn. I learn new things every day, and that's the exciting part about the Civi world and CiviPlus especially. So thank you all for joining us, and we'd love to talk. Yes, thank you, and we will be in touch with you, and wish everybody a wonderful rest of the day. Oh, everyone's sending so many nice things in the chat, so I'll just keep talking over it, but thank you everyone.
Yeah, someone's asking if we might do something in grant management. We can certainly consider it. We're thinking about what we might do for next year's webinars at the moment. So yeah, we'll put that on our list of considerations. We will. Thank you for that. Okay, so I will say then, let's wrap things up and let people go. So maybe we can stop the recording. Yes.
And say thanks for joining us. See you next time.